Hi, this is Some Color Mage, and with me today are...
Hi, this is Cat Use.
Hey, this is Drakey C.
Hi, this is Techno Blisserator.
And today we have bonus content unlocked. And also Final Fantasy Wiki plays Final Fantasy 15 Windows Edition, I guess.
PC Master Race.
Indeed.
Well, yeah, you can't put nude mods on the PS4 version.
There aren't any nude mods yet. And for whatever reason I stayed on here for a while because I like the music, I guess.
Because it's great music.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also because I thought that maybe for once an intro would take a while, but no, we never managed to do an intro that's actually well prepared.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
We do have higher quality audio than we did for the past, like, 3 LPs, though.
True. So yes, I skipped the tutorial, and as you'll see later, this immediately bites me in the ass because I also turned off the button prompts and forgot how to push the car at the very beginning.
Well, we're already off to a good start, which is that we're keeping in the tradition.
I never made that connection before. 4 warriors following the King of Light. It's the 4 warriors of light.
Yep.
I never made that connection.
There are Warriors of Light in this game? I thought this was Sonic Unleashed. Wait, what the hell is this shit?
Looks like Keanu Reeves and he's pissed off.
To be fair, 15 has one of the most confusing introductions of any of the
So
games
anyway,
in the series.
this is entirely scripted. You can't do anything. You just run up and cutscene.
Yeah. I don't know why they chose to introduce it this way. I don't know why they didn't just choose to like have it start with the pushing the car thing. Like, I don't get the significance of throwing them right into the action here.
Yeah, that's going to be a recurring theme in this game. They try to use various literary devices, but do it in a way that just ends up being confusing or poorly paced.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Like, it doesn't even really spoil anything. Like, you can't clearly see where they are or who they're fighting, and it's not immediately obvious that they're significantly older than before, so, you know, doesn't foreshadow anything or ruin anything.
I just don't entirely get. Yeah, I don't get why they just didn't start here. Like, this is a good start.
Yeah, this probably makes a bit more sense, but as we'll see in, I don't know, at this rate, probably part 3 or so, none of this opening works well because it basically depends on you watching a movie to understand part of it.
Yeah.
Also, nobody in the history of their universe has talked to their son like that.
I remember I didn't watch the I didn't watch the whole thing, but I did watch like the first bit of Kingsglaive, and the whole opening is like the history of the kingdom, and it's protected by this wall, and there's this line of kings, and Noctis was ill and taken for hate, and I'm like, this should have been the intro to the game. You're giving us all the critical backstory we want in the game. Why is this in the movie?
The real thing is, what happens if you haven't watched Brotherhood? How could you know that these guys don't just love eating burgers if you haven't watched Brotherhood? That's a very important plot point.
Like,
I thought every episode of Brotherhood they were going to watch a burger and then got disappointed when part 3 came and there were no more burgers.
Now there's a theme song that applies good to this game, Wayward Song. Carry on, my wayward son, there'll be peace when you are done.
Like, the thing is, yeah, with 15, is basically what happened, is after 13, everyone complained about how they didn't understand the lore because not everyone read the data logs. So with 15, they were like, alright, instead of doing data logs, we'll just give them a bunch of movies that they don't have to watch. and then we'll put them as additional content.
I'll just.
But then the thing is, they're expecting people to watch the movies as well.
I'll just ask you to keep that statement in mind for later, Techno.
Okay. Okay, I'll get back to that later. But yeah.
Because I'm assuming you're talking about the game as at the time it launched. This is the game at the time of patch, what, 16 or so? Things have changed.
About that. I think it's 1.16.
I was gonna replay it once like the DLC episodes were done, but I'm like, they're gonna keep doing DLC, I'll play it at the end, you know?
Yeah, and then
I hear rumors that Noctis's DLC episode will change the ending, so that'll be cool.
The second set of 4 DLCs is supposed to be an alternate story path, which isn't like completely out of nowhere because the final DLC of the original set also has an alternate ending to the story. So,
yeah, the one thing I've heard from people commenting about the latest edition of it is basically everyone says this is the game we should have got the first time round, and the additional DLC episodes are what should have been the first season pass. Not sure if that's true here.
I haven't gotten to Royal Edition content yet, but it does already seem to be a lot better than when I first played. So.
Okay.
Yeah, like, honestly, like, I don't think 15's a bad game, but you can tell it is incomplete. But I don't think it's entirely the developer's fault. Like, 14, the 13 saga really wore its welcome. 14 was a complete botch. I think Square Enix is really pushing this out ahead of time because, they wanted that success. It was not ready to be done, and I think even the developers of it know it wasn't ready. That's why they're doing all these patches.
Yeah, there really wasn't anything they could have done about it.
Let's be clear. I like 15. It's a mess. But I like it.
Here we are with a bunch of idiots pushing a car while Stand By Me plays.
Yeah, if you saw me adjusting the camera and stuff, that's because I forgot. Oh yeah, you gotta push both triggers to push the car.
It's such like really Stand By Me is the song for the game, but then you read the lyrics and you get to the end of the game and it's like, oh my god, it's the perfect song for the game.
It's still a hilarious choice though.
I know, but it fits. You read the lyrics and it's like, oh wow, they basically are spoiling the plot, the ending of the game for us with this theme tune.
Because we were talking about Royal Edition stuff, I should note that this is the first time I've played the game since Episode Ignis came out, so anything Royal Edition related, I'm going in blind.
Okay, that might be interesting. So the thing with 15's release date is, in my opinion, there was nothing really they could have done about it. The thing is, they announced Versus 13 way too early. In fact, they should have just not announced it at all, frankly. So basically at that point, the game had already been in development 10 years, they could not delay it any further. And like Drake points out, they could not have delayed the next numbered release any later than this release. Because, they had to have a single player successful Final Fantasy after 13 was so divisive. So they had to release it this time, and that meant, they had to push it out the gate. Because remember, the developers they didn't even want to delay it past the September release, and they had to delay it by 2 months, and that pained them to do.
The thing that I think is, I agree recently announcing it so early was a problem. It's because, by their own admission, it didn't really enter development until after the 13 trilogy was done. By which time, they moved it to a new engine, they moved it to a new console, they completely changed the development staff, including the director, and the game was heavily rewritten. They announced 13.2 when it was basically just the concept, and it changed so much from the initial concept of Versus 13 to what we got here, that people didn't know what they were getting with this. And I don't think even that, I don't think there was a coherent vision of what it was going to be, because it had changed so much.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
right. Like, despite the fact that we can see several 15 things in Versus 13, like the open world wasn't a new thing. There was one trailer in Versus 13 where you're going around the countryside controlling Prompto, shooting things. A lot of things that they wanted to include in Versus 13 are in 15, but recontextualized to the point of unrecognizability.
Y'all heard him.
There's the one trailer I remember. It showed like Noctis and the group like fleeing from a mansion that was like being stormed and invaded by soldiers. And
oh yeah, that was the one
here.
where they announced that it was Final Fantasy 15.
Yeah, and that ain't in the game. I think it was meant to be part of the Altitia thing, because I remember seeing Leviathan in those scenes, but there's nothing like that in the final game.
Chapter 9 is so fucked. I don't think they fixed that in this version. Chapter 9 is terrible.
Y'all ain't never been out this way before.
But at least this is the version with the fixed Chapter 13.
Make sure y'all don't get lost.
I remember making the joke. So, Chapter 13 in this game consists you walking down a long, endless hallway fighting enemies that are easily beaten.
And
what a shock that the 13th chapter was a hallway.
And then they made a Chapter 13 too.
They did.
That tried to fix everything.
And, well...
In fairness, I don't think Chapter 13-2, like Part 2, did a bad job. I think it was...
Chapter 13 Verse 2 is an ad for episode Gladiolus, and it's not very interesting.
Yeah, it's not bad, but it's not
It can't be any worse than the actual 13-2. Like, I still think that is the worst game in the series. Like, I really do. That's the game I just grown at. It's like, no.
At some point they added daily quests. You do enough of them, you can buy the Afro sword, which is not a sword with an afro on it. I'm pretty sure it looks like a DJ turn deck or something.
Did Prompto just ask what a gil is? He doesn't know what money is?
Apparently the city uses a different currency from the rest of Lucis.
Okay, I don't remember that plot point. That's interesting.
That's like QP or something.
I love how you start with 10,000.
Maybe they use gold pieces or GP.
Isn't it interesting?
Of Final Fantasy IV.
Yes, the memories of whatever car parts are partial soundtracks of games that you can add to the car's track list.
Yeah, I do love that they did that.
Oh yeah, it's a very nice touch.
I just love that the first thing...
I remember mentioning to someone, like, getting the DLC episodes, because everyone complained that the story was unfinished, so they do the DLC, and everyone, like, complains, oh, you're making it DLC. I made the comment to someone, like, if they released Final Fantasy IV in the modern era, people would be complaining, we don't know what happened to Tella when he left the party, or Kane when he left the party, or what Rydia's training in the Feymarch was. So they'd cave and release it all as DLC, and then people would complain about that.
That's true.
So just really, attitudes towards games have changed so much in the last 20 years.
I don't think it's reasonable to compare a game we made 20 years ago to a game that's made today.
Well, to be fair, the whole of 4, the After Years, is basically a series of DLC episodes.
Well, 4 was fucking episodic. The After Years was...
Like, but the After Years...
Can we not talk about the After Years?
The After Years, it doesn't even add anything new.
Like, I actually sat down and tried to come up with a timeline for that After Years, and it's impossible. The timeline is completely fucked up, because they did do it episodically. They didn't care about making the story coherent between individual episodes.
So, anyway, at restaurants and stuff, you can buy buffs and undertake hunts. We'll get to that later, because... I just wanted to get this very first part of the story out of the way before we did hunts. Although I will say...
first thing they give you to do in 15 is basically a side quest.
Y'all need something?
Why do we have to wait for it to load to do a dialogue option?
the windows.
Well, maybe if you wait too long, the Noctis realizes I'm just standing here awkwardly staring at her cleavage. Maybe I should say
The Windows version is pretty bad with loading. Like those 2 loading screens I left in earlier, I cut those after about 30 seconds each. They just kept going.
Oh.
I only left them in because they actually have information on them. There's a lot of contextless and random trivia shit that I'll probably have to cut out every time I start the game for the rest of this Let's Play.
Oh god.
Yeah, the thing is like
when I was playing 14 on that terrible old computer of mine, and I would have to wait like 2 minutes for the thing to load. But this is like a real gaming computer, right? And the game takes 10 years to load.
This is like, and people are going to call me a loser dog for this, but this is like a 2017 Alienware laptop.
Wait, the thing is with
is that good? Is that impressive? I don't know.
That's Dell's gaming.
Like with the Windows edition of 15, they basically designed it with the idea in mind that everyone who uses PC is some like PC master race elitist who has like ridiculously good specs and like spent $3,000 on their PC, and so that's why the game like requires ridiculously good specs, but at the same time, like if you have the specs to run it, you can get ridiculously good like 4K resolution, and like all the textures are ridiculously good. But it's just weird, like it's like Square Enix basically, I'm guessing just like in Japan they just don't understand PC gamers, so they just assume that everyone who is using this will be like really high end, so they left all the high end features for this. And I think like this even has a mod editor. I think it's a map editor it's got, right?
It's not out yet. It's planned.
Oh, okay. Okay, yeah, but they were planning like a map editor for this, and like all these random features for it that they made exclusive to this version.
And there's me forgetting the controls again. You'll see me open the start menu instead of the main menu a lot.
Saber? Man, I want to see you equip the Blazefire Saber. I didn't know that's a thing.
Yeah, it's a DLC thing.
There it is.
Yeah, it includes all the DLC and the Half-Life mods that are available on Steam. There are also Cactuar mods, but I haven't. I'll just say this: I haven't turned the Cactuar mods on because the only way you can turn them off is to go in and delete all the files. While you have those Cactuar mods on, every sword is replaced with a Cactuar. Nearly all the NPC models are replaced with Cactuars, and you can't turn it off.
Oh, that's glorious.
Why is this a mod?
So yeah, I've got good hopes for the modding community, considering that's what Square's come up with.
There's a mod for Skyrim that makes all the dragons into Macho Man Randy Savage.
Oh my god.
Nothing surprises me. There's one that turns them into giant chickens, I think. Of course, there's one that turns them into ponies, because of course there's a mod that turns the dragons into ponies. But like, no, it makes like the dragons look like this giant deformed Macho Man, and I think it like, I don't know if it was an edit to the video or the mod, but it changes the Dragon Wars to be like, oh yeah!
So yes, as we've started with pretty much all of the original version DLC, Noctis has a lot of alternate outfits. And at the moment we're in the sane ones, but here comes the Choco Mog Tea.
I'm surprised that they haven't like started releasing mods where he dresses up as other Final Fantasy
and
characters.
Mexican.
Like Lightning did it, why can't Noctis?
And Gladiolus's face. And
does this mean they're a couple?
Sure.
Like, I don't know what that means. Noctis wears the shirt with Gladio, and Gladio wears the one with Noctis.
That is cool.
There's the Magitech exosuit, which was supposed to be the Super Sentai parody until the guys who own Power Rangers threatened to sue them.
Wait.
The Magitech exosuit, from what I understand, makes you invincible for a limited time if you have it equipped.
I don't think I ever used it. Like, I remember I unlocked it, but then... Fuck it. Like,
so yes, I'm leaving that on for most of this episode.
I'm glad, like, tacky-looking sombreros are a feature in this game.
Dude, if the cup noodle hat was available, I would have gone with that.
Okay. So the equipment system in 15 is actually extremely easy. Like, compared to the one they added in 13, I think, like, 13's was so complicated and so difficult for people to understand.
Okay, so remember what you were saying about the data log earlier, Techno?
Yeah, I know they added it back to this edition.
Yep, it's fucking back.
Like, see, the difference between this one is you can actually understand it without reading, like, the data logs. Whereas with I love how the cars will stop you, but like,
wait, why didn't he just run you over?
Because he respects my choice of fashion.
He's like, I can't damage a hat like that.
Okay, so before we started, I set up all my settings, so we have wait mode already on. So when Noctis isn't doing anything, the game will pause, and this is actually useful in some respects because it makes the scan function work faster, and later on some moves will do more damage if you do them out of wait mode.
Oh, that's interesting.
But also, in general, a lot of combat is just hold down the attack button and then the block button when prompted.
Not just this one either. The hell do you think
That's
did this?
interesting.
Hard to say.
Yeah, as I was saying about the data logs, basically the difference is that, like, they added it in just for people who want to learn extra about the lore. Which, by the way, folks, you don't even need to read the data logs anymore because it's now all on our wiki. But anyway, they added it in just for people who want to read about the lore a bit more. Whereas with 15, they throw around a lot of terms that make sense within the universe's lore of 13. But if you don't know what those terms mean, if you haven't, like, read up about it, then you won't be able to follow the plot very well. Whereas with this, the plot is a lot easier to follow, even if at times it's kind of confusing.
Like, the biggest problem with 13's data log is that they don't actually explain the things that are relevant to the ending, which is a big deal, because once you know the context of those things, it does actually fucking make sense. And makes the plot of 13-2 less of an arseful, because the ending of the original 13 was Etro's gate did start opening, but Etro decided this was all bullshit and Deus Machina'd them out of it.
That feels like...
So, what part of the data logs in 13 makes Caius not a shitty villain?
That's an impossibility. And the main thing that will help anyone with Caius being a good character is Liam O'Brien, and nothing else can help with that.
Yeah, if he wasn't voiced by Liam O'Brien, no one would give a shit about Caius.
That's true.
And after that, we hop a boat and
I'd say we should do a Let's Play of 13 too, so we can all riff on it, but who would make that sacrifice?
No,
Yeah.
no.
I'm not going to subject myself to that.
Yeah, I did my time with that, no more.
We could do.
I might actually, like, I'd be willing to replay Lightning Returns. Like, honestly, it was a surprisingly decent game.
Lightning Returns was good, although I'll admit part of that is clearly because the main story and side quests had different writers, and the side quest writers had stopped giving a fuck ages ago.
Yeah. Like, the thing that I've surprised me with it is, like, you can add your own map cursors, and you can color code them and make them different shapes and add notes on them. Like, this is the most amazingly simple, helpful thing ever. Why does not every open world and adventure game do this? I'd take this for Pokemon. I'd take this for Legend of Zelda.
And Nintendo might be starting to pick up on that actually, because the note-taking system for what was it, Metroid: Samus Returns was pretty good. There were lots of coloured markers, and the only problem was that you couldn't really leave a lot of them around.
Not missing.
Like, imagine being able to play a Pokemon game and you like see like, oh, there's a tree for cut, but I don't have cut yet, or there's a body of water, but I don't have surf yet, and you can just make a map marker. Boop, surf here. Boop, cut here. You won't have to backtrack and just tell them to keep an eye out for everything. You just know what you have to do.
Oh yeah, hunts are in this game, but they're not as good as 12.
Yeah, we're going to, I think like half of this video might end up being hunts actually. I'll just say right now, the episode ends just as we're about to leave Hammerhead, so hunts take a lot longer than I were expecting them to.
Yeah, the hunts are not particularly fun. Like, a lot of them are kind of repetition in this game. Like, especially compared to 12, where there was much more unique. Kind of disappointing.
I forgot how chaotic fights can get in this game.
Yeah.
It's like, you're in this tiny room, your camera bouncing around all over.
How many enemies are there? Which ones are attacking me? Which ones are my allies are attacking? I just got damaged. Who attacked me?
Hey, what about the shack over there?
Yeah, it can be a bit hard to follow, and you'll see that because of that I'm not really that good at this game.
I think if I remember from my playthrough, if you want to beat Final Fantasy 15, you hold the attack button, and yeah, that should do it.
You hold the attack button, and you buy as many restorative items as you possibly can, and that's most of it, aside from like a couple of the late game bosses. And the late game bosses are where you actually involve strategy, but throughout the rest of the game, that's more or less it. It's just you kind of power mode through it.
Honest Trailer summed it up. You just run in swinging your sword wildly and popping potions like an addict.
Yep. This, like, I will tell you though, like, the warp strike is ridiculously fun to use. Like, that makes Noctis ridiculously fun to control. And I think,
and just walking around all over the place is really fun. Yeah, although you can't really use it a lot when when you're actually starting to attack enemies, because warp strike damage is based on how far you fly, and if you're in melee range, warp strikes do half damage.
Yeah, I remember that. I think we've now I don't remember how to do it, but I know that you can now unlock playing as all 4 of them in this version.
I think you have to like complete that DLC to do it. I think
it's on the Ascension grid. I don't know whether or not you have to clear their chapters first.
Funny about that bargain. I gave him hell, but good.
Of controlling the move, I would say that like I'm fine. Probably Gladiator most fun to control, even though Ignis had the best episode. And like Gladiator's episode actually quite disappointed me, because that's my favorite character, and I didn't enjoy his episode as much as the other 2.
And it had Greg in it.
Yeah, and it wasn't even the good version of Greg.
No. Like I just watched it. I was like, ooh, fight with Gilgamesh. That's cool. And I like looked it up and I watched a video. And I'm like, that ain't Gilgamesh.
I know.
You know, you can call him Yojimbo if you want, and I'd buy that, but that ain't Gilgamesh.
I know, it is a shame, like, although, the one thing it did give us, it gave us a very good version of Battle on the Big Bridge. But let's be real, there's no such thing as a bad version of Battle on the Big Bridge.
Yeah. Like, even the 13-2, one of the very, very few things good in it. Battle of the Big Bridge.
Oh yeah, Gilgamesh DLC is probably the best part of.
I didn't buy it though, because I'm like, Square Enix doesn't deserve my money for this game. You're not getting a dime.
Yeah, he even makes a joke about the fact that he's DLC. like in that he says, "I thought you'd never download this part of the game." It's like he's taunting you the fact that the only good part of the game has to be downloaded.
Yeah. See these weapons I picked up in the rift? They let me predict the weather. Bullet showers and rocket storms!
And then once you beat him up a bit, he realizes all the guns are shit and throws them away.
It's just, the problem with Gilgamesh in this game is basically, like, they tried to, like, say how we can make Gilgamesh work within this universe, but no, that's not the point.
Yeah, the answer is you fucking
and be out of place.
He wanders between universes. He doesn't have to work for this one.
Exactly.
Like I said, if you call the guy Yojimbo, that would Yojimbo would work for that.
Like
sure.
the only games where Gilgamesh worked in universe is 5 because he came from 5, and 14 because he was paired up with characters that were even stupider than him.
Yeah. To be fair, he does work really well in 12.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, but like in 12 he's still very clearly not really part of the world he's in.
Yeah, he's just this asshole who's going around taking swords and it's never explained. That's kind of the point.
Yeah.
Yeah, same in 8. Like, he just appears out of nowhere and takes Odin's Zen Tetsuken when he dies.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it's quite a shame considering how good this game normally is at making references to other things in the series. Like, I mean, you count the number of references it makes to other games. Like, I'm fairly sure it tops 9 or 14. I mean, maybe not 14.
I don't know if anything could top 14, though.
In terms of references?
Yeah, 14 is endless references.
Yeah.
Okay.
I read a fan theory that they really had to stretch and it didn't really work, but there was a theory that the 15 royal arms that you collect, each one of them is a reference to one of the previous main series heroes. And like they tried to explain it, justify it, and it doesn't work. That's not the intent. But I'm like, that would have been a really cool idea.
Yeah, it would have been cool, but that sounds like a real hard sell.
Yeah,
it would have been difficult to do that.
Although, if we're going to talk about fan theories, we got to make sure to include that guy who made the really huge theory on how the gods and the cosmology work, and then ended up throwing a massive tantrum when they added the lengthened scene where you meet Shiva that basically disproved half of what he was saying.
Yeah, but then like I remember it proved of some of the theories too.
Yeah.
The thing is though,
like I remember they had this theory that this dungeon is the place where like Ifrit died or something, and then episode Gladio came out and said, "Yep, that's the corpse of Ifrit up there."
The thing is though, like I'm fairly sure most of these companies will never actually read the fan theories because they're just not allowed to, and they're not allowed to take the fan theories because there's like legal reasons that they can't do that. Because basically, if they took a fan theory and made it official, then what would happen?
Then the person who made it can say they deserve payment. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why they're never going to like. So if you want to get your idea like in the games, you're going to have to actually work for the company. Like you can't just publish like a fanfic or a fan theory and spread it around and say, let's make sure this is what happened, because it's just not going to happen. So I'm sorry to all the folks that want Jar Jar Binks to be a Sith Lord, but it's not going to happen. They can't do it.
Oh, that would make the prequels much more entertaining.
Yeah, like there's a similar thing for a tangent on My Little Pony that the creators and show writers, runners and writers have specifically said Hasbro doesn't let us like look at fan works or read fanfics or look at fan art or anything like that, because even if they have good ideas that we might want to turn into an episode, we can't do it consciously because then there's all kinds of legal problems.
That was what
any creator that has a lawyer will not let that creator read fan work, basically.
Yeah.
That thing's like half bird, half storm, half airship.
I was just gonna say, Gladio.
Which one is this? Like, I don't think I remember that enemy actually.
Okay. Could be worse. Could be half man, half bear, and half pig.
Oh god.
Interesting.
I remember when I went to when I played...
Oh, I would love to see a modder make Man Bear Pig a monster, like Final Fantasy 15 version of Man Bear Pig.
Yeah. I remember when I played 15, like, I went to the mountain area, you know, the one that's in the west side of the map, that like...
yeah, Rock of Ravato, or however it's pronounced.
That's the one, Ravato, yeah. I remember when I went there was like... I was doing some really mundane thing, and then there was this huge ass space, like... And I was thinking, why didn't they use this for a boss? This is obviously designed for some boss. And then obviously later on, like hours after, and when I was already at a much higher level, you know, I found out it was used for a boss after all, and it was just a generic hunt. So it just, like, and obviously, you know, it actually really fit the hunt, but it just made you think, like, you know, that hunt really should have been part of the main story. Like, some of the things that they put as hunts...
Yeah, putting hunts in dungeons is kind of weird, because dungeons in this game do already have properly set out boss encounters and stuff, so it's...
Yeah, exactly. Which is why it felt
I think
really
the thing
weird.
that I find really strange is how they suddenly make the Royal Arms like a side quest late in the game. Like, they're the main part of the first part of the game, and then later on it's just, no, they're a side quest now. You don't have to get them all.
To be fair,
anyway, speaking of hunts, let's start doing hunts.
I think 5 did the same thing with the sealed weapons. I think it's a reference to that.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. It seems plausible. I'm not saying it's a good idea, but it's an idea that Square Enix has definitely done before.
Also, I forget when they added this, but you can now have up to 10 active hunts at once, which is a very, very nice change from how the game was when it launched.
For that. Because it was annoying having to, like, only being able to do one at once, and then having to run back every time. That was dumb. I completely, like, I had...
Better make tracks. Ignis!
What was it? Oh yeah, right. So, the thing with, this game, compared to 12, is just that, like, basically the side quests in this are a lot more mundane and make a lot, like, they don't add as much to the story and they're a lot less interesting. Whereas with 12, there are fewer side quests, but the side quests are more interesting.
A lot of 12's side quest structure was including, you know, side quests that aren't hunts. They were involved in the stories about hunts and such. It's a very significant difference from how 13 onwards do hunts.
Yeah, like, and also there are parts of this game where it feels like they had a really good idea for it, but then they just decided for whatever reason that either it wasn't good enough to be in the main story, or that they just didn't have time to work it into the main story, so that they would end up including it somewhere else. So for instance, like, the whole of episode Dusuke had that one hunt, and that was the main, like, boss of it, was you fight this this one-eyed behemoth called, what was it? Deadeye, that was the one. And so they...
Deadeye.
Wasn't it just called, like, One Eye?
Deadeye.
Yeah, it was Deadeye. Yeah. So they had Deadeye come back for this, but then they reworked the way to kill him. So, like, you no longer have to use a summon. They basically made it so, like, I think you just blow him up with oil rigs or something like that.
Well, the oil rigs were in Dusuke as well. It's just that within the level range that you're expected to take him on in the demo, where you just cannot do enough damage to him before he'll inevitably put knocked in danger state, at which point you can summon Ramu, so why wouldn't you?
Yeah, but it just shows that basically what they had to do for this game at several points, because they weren't given enough time, is they just had to kind of throw everything at the wall and see what sticked. Like, they just kind of said, like, we have to be really efficient with our development time. And that was a really
here's my
nice
first attempt to use magic. I missed.
Yeah. Yeah.
I do like the idea of the magic system in this game, like, you know, drawing it from points in the environment of elemental power and, like, putting them in, like, grenade things. That's a really, like, I think, unique and creative idea.
I like the magic grenades, and also I do like how, you know, they're realistically thought out. Like, you don't use magic on when you're in water because fire is less useful. Thunder will pretty much kill you as well. And I don't know if you've seen this video of someone using one of the high-level blizzard spells when they're in a lake, and they get stuck in the lake unable to move because they got frozen in.
Nice.
That's actually really
cool. Like you and I can see it, like fire spell, it set the environment on fire.
Yeah.
So the magic system, as you know, is really cool in this, at least.
I will say that the magic system is great, and there's one boss where, like, I basically killed it with only magic, and, like, it is kind of interesting how you can, like, mix all your items with the magics you've put together, and then that makes more powerful spells. But I will say, at the same time...
And you can mix the different, like, types of the elemental power you combine to make different spells.
Yeah, that's right. But, like, basically, it's a really deep and interesting system, but at the same time, you could easily go the whole game without it. So it just bothers me that there's only, like, a couple bosses that really require it. And they're all late game bosses. Like, I feel like it would be much more interesting if they say, like, made it a requirement for one of the summons or something.
Yeah, you'll find that I mostly use magic as openers for hunts and stuff like that.
Yeah, like, that makes sense. But it would be a really interesting thing is if, like, there was a scenario where they had to fight one of the summons, and then Ignis was like, oh, we can't kill them with physical attacks, we need to find magic, and we need to put this item with it. And then there was a whole side quest about doing that, and that kind of taught you how the system works. But as it is, there's, like, a really complex and quite deep system to the magics, and how you can make use of your spells to fight certain enemies, and get spells that, like, break the damage limit or whatever. But you'll just never know about it.
Like, no one ever makes you learn it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just a waste of potential, really. Like, I love the system. They didn't use it properly. Although, I guess you can make the same argument about mixes in FF10. Like, I mean, if you don't learn Riku's mixes, then you'll never use literally the most powerful ability in the game.
Yeah, mixes were kind of genius, but they're also, like, completely irrelevant because the game is...
I'll give you that.
I don't want to say the game is too easy, but, like, the North American version, other than, like, the North American version doesn't have any of the super bosses, so, like, what's the point?
Yeah, the item system of 10 is just weird, honestly. It's extremely detailed in a game that's designed for never needing to use any of that shit unless you're playing the version of the game that, like, a year later they realize, oh, let's put some stuff in that actually uses the systems we've made for this game.
Like, technically...
It's kind of like 12 fell into, like, the same trap. Like, that's why they had a trial mode. Like, yeah, you can, like, spend hours grinding out all the weapons, then gear for the Tournesol and Durandal and all that, but do you need those items to complete the game? Heck no.
Also why they added jobs, so, you know, you actually use some of your options.
Yeah. Zodiac Age was amazing. We should do a Let's Play of that.
I love the Zodiac Age. But I was saying, like, even technically, even in the North American version, if you do, like, if you hate yourself, then you can, like, use that stuff against the more difficult enemies in the monster arena, but there's no real, like, reward from that. So they needed to add the super bosses, basically, to make any of that stuff worthwhile.
Then super bosses, like, I did a blog post on another site for it, but, like, I call it, like, pardon my French, the fuck you boss. And that's the boss where it doesn't matter how good your party is, how strategically you fight, what equipment you're using, now and then the boss just goes, fuck you, you're dead. And 10's super bosses, especially penance, are just fuck you bosses.
Yeah.
You know, there's no strategy to them except hit them really hard and don't let them kill you in one hit, because they can.
Yeah, 7 and 9 fall into the same trap. Like, Ruby Weapon, ultimately, most people just give up and use Knights of the Round. Ozma doesn't have a lot of health, but he can just randomly kill you with Meteor just because he feels like it. So there's no reward for using both these
Omega Weapon and 8 is the same way, except you just
them.
use the item that makes the party invincible.
There's a reason why in my Let's Play of 7.
Anyway, here's the most lovingly detailed part of the game. Cooking.
Yeah, I know. It's quite funny how they do like cross promotions with all these food companies to put their foods in the game as well. I think that's really cute.
The cheese pizza was DLC for the original version of the game, and you can see how utterly broken it is early game because it gives you a high level attack boost and costs nothing. The only downside is you do not get a lot of cooking experience for it.
Yep.
So, will we see Ignis come up with a new recipe in this part?
Yes.
Good. I love that, like, even as voice actor, like, I think he tweeted, like, "That's it! I've become an internet meme!"
Yeah.
And it's like, yes, thank you.
Like,
I hope,
by the way, folks,
I hope at some point Choco Mug Carnival comes to the Windows version because when you buy the food from there, Noctis does a really bad impression of Ignis saying, "I've come up with a new recipe," and it's brilliant.
oh nice.
Well, the rumor, I'm not sure yet because it's not out in English, but the rumor is that on Final Fantasy Record Keeper, one of Ignis's soul breaks makes reference to the catchphrase.
Oh, that's...
Like, I'm not sure if that's true, but we'll have to see.
I think that's probably one of his skills that he learns in the DLC episode. It's one of his strongest abilities because he has iframes during the entirety of him cooking a recipe mid-battle.
By the way, folks, if anyone is like me and like falls into the trap of thinking that the cooking is not that important, there's actually a really useful food that it's like the golden soup, I think it is, that basically means that all your attacks are guaranteed to be critical hits. So that makes killing Adamantoise so much easier, and I imagine it makes killing the bosses that they added to this version of the game much easier as well. So cooking is probably the most
really
useful
powerful.
skill.
And also now we're going to see what's it called? A tour. These are side quests tied to specific camps. You've only got yourself and the party member that's invited you out. Usually you do something, but because this is Ignis, we're just going to have a cutscene with a QT in it while we cook stuff.
Yeah.
You just reminded me mentioning how overpowered cooking is, and one of the recent Record Keeper, one of the recent Final Fantasy IX events, gave Quina a really, really good soul break, Culinary Curiosity, and of course it just depicts her cooking. And it casts Protectga, Hastega, and Shelga on the party, and also gives them a huge boost to their attack.
Oh wow.
It is ridiculous, amazing.
This is a really cheesy QTE.
Let's see how things are stewing.
Like, the thing with the tours is they're actually, like, a lot of them are actually pretty fun, but it's again the thing with this game is, like, you have some of the side quests feel actually really interesting, but the vast majority of them are just so mundane and just feel kind of, I guess, pointless. Like, I know the thing they were going for with this game is that it's like a road trip and it's meant to feel like that, but even still, like, they can't just give you too much mundane stuff to do and not like make it easy, because at least with like how the camps work and how that's tied to your experience and how that works, like, it's realistic but also really fun.
I think it could make it. They could be interesting, like if like the various ways Noctis interacts with the other three, like maybe like their tech attacks do more damage, or their tech meter fills up quicker, so they can do more combo attacks more often.
Yeah, that would be good. Like if the tours actually like affected their abilities more.
How did you fancy returning to the stove?
It's interesting because one of the tours is pretty much just about Prompto trying to ask Cindy out on a date, and it doesn't work, and it's quite funny because like either option that you choose for him, it goes badly for him.
Yeah,
and it's like
Prompto, it's easy. Just ask Cindy if she can give you a loop job.
Well, unfortunately for Prompto, they cancelled the original version of the VR game, so he will never go on that date.
Yeah.
There's this thing now that I'm sure you guys see it. There's a video of like you could take the one photograph at the end of the game, and Noctis shows it to Luna, and of course someone made it. It's like this close up of Sydney with her cleavage showing, and that's the picture Noctis takes with him to the afterlife.
Like, there are different responses that Prompto will make to your choice depending on who's in the picture, and some of them are pretty funny. Like he's just so confused if you select a picture with the main villain in it.
Hey, Arden's awesome.
Arden is awesome.
I'm waiting for him to come to Record Keeper. He's gonna be badass.
Arden is absolutely amazing. Like, I feel like he's the best villain they've done in ages. Like, easily the best since Kuja.
I showed a friend of mine he's in the Final Fantasy, but he hasn't played 15. I mentioned to him the clip where Arden like just steps aside and lets Noctis see that he's taken out all his friends. It seems your friends could use your help. They've fallen and they can't get up. And he's like, oh wow, that is so what? He is such a troll. He's so awesome.
I know. I love Arden. Like, he's such an underrated villain.
So yes, I left in that small side battle just because it ended with like come up with a new recipe.
Fair enough.
No, not recipe. Recipe. I've come up with a new recipe.
I think like because we're getting more to the end of this episode, I will say that one of my biggest problems with this game is just how slow the start is. Like, I love the fact that they introduced us to the open world right off the bat. That was smart. But you have to give us something to do in it right from the get-go, or else people aren't going to understand what the game's about. Like, I worry that a lot of people who would have picked up this game will have dropped it at that point, because they would have seen it and thought like, oh, I don't really know what's going on here, like, I'm too confused. Or like, they just basically won't have much of a sense of direction, so they might have dropped it at this point. So I wish they'd handled that a little bit better. Like, I wish they didn't, like, the first thing they gave you wasn't just, you know, Cindy telling you to do a side quest.
Yeah.
So
but with that said,
my favorite
the
spells
open world is one of
the
the best parts of this game.
So my favorite spells are the multicast ones. They're not as useful in some regards as Expericast and stuff, but well, when you get the spell casting multiple times, you often see the effect like compound, like you saw I threw that dual cast Blizzard, and the effect went everywhere.
Yeah, like just magic in this game is really good if you know how to use it. But if you don't, and if you just like basically mix the magic with nothing, with no items at all, then you're kind of wasting it. So if you learn how it works, then you'll learn that it's actually like, it can make fights a whole lot quicker, and it can make you enjoy the game a whole lot more. But the problem is most people won't, because they just don't spell it out to you. Like, I do love this game. This game is great, you know, it's exactly what the series needed, in my opinion. But
it's not perfect, you know, but it's fine.
Yeah.
Like, people like hating on it, saying it's so terrible. Like, you know what? Go replay the Lightning Saga sometime and come back. We'll have a talk.
Yeah, exactly. Like, anyone who's hyperbolic and says like, "Oh, this is not a Final Fantasy game," or "Oh, this is like too boring," or whatever. Like, those people just do not remember the 13 days, because when 13 came out, you had the whole press, like every gaming journalist out there, basically talking about how JRPGs were dead. Like, it was that bad.
Yeah.
It was like the hate
like,
that 13
you know,
got.
13 isn't all bad too. It has strong points, but
Yeah, even 13 didn't deserve the hate that it got. But like,
Yeah.
Like, 15 has received nowhere near the same level as hate. Like, if anything, the hate 15 received is more comparable to the hate 12 received, and we're now calling 12, like, a lot of people calling it their best game. So, I think it will be more interesting to see how 15 endures, like, especially after they finished with, like, patching it and whatever, to see what the opinion of it is then. Because
I think there is some... Oh, sorry, go on.
No, you can go.
I remember there's like a lot of 50. If you ever visit a Final Fantasy 15 article on Silicon Era, comments are full of Final Fantasy 15 haters claiming like, "Oh, this game killed Final Fantasy. Its reputation is in tatters. It's the worst game ever." I'm like, okay, Final Fantasy series has survived all the bravest version 1.0 of Final Fantasy 14, and it survived the Lightning Saga. 15 ain't gonna kill it.
Yeah.
If it can survive those three things, 15 ain't gonna kill it.
The problem with modern Final Fantasy has never been the constant paradigm shifts. They've always done that. It's a series of loosely related themes, not direct sequels. The problem with modern Final Fantasy is that their development pipeline is utterly fucked. And has been that way since the development of 12.
And they better not screw it up with the remake.
Like, you don't have to come up with these huge, complex stories. Like, just come up with a good story. You know, Final Fantasy VI is a perfectly good story, and it's simple. 14 is a serviceable story, and it's a simple story.
Well, 14's story has become kind of complicated lately, but...
I've got what it takes.
Oh, no, I mean 4's story, not 14.
To take the wheel.
But it's like, you know, like, we don't need all these flashy graphics and complex plot lines and stories with deep backstory and all that. Just give us good stuff.
Yeah.
That can hold up on its own.
Yeah, like, I feel like
Final Fantasy VI's lore has tons of holes in it. We don't care because the main story is good.
I feel like with ever since Final Fantasy X, where with like when they made the world of Spira and then they made like a lot of lore behind it, I feel like ever since then they've kind of had this idea of, okay, every game we do from now on has to be that. Like, we have to make our worlds ridiculously unique, and we have to add all these different like terms to it that make it this world unique to this, and we have to like set it up in this ridiculous way. And sometimes that works. So with Ivalice that works, like when you have a political intrigue plot. With this it kind of works, even if it's a bit incoherent. Like, it felt like they were trying a lot of things at once and didn't really work. But in the case of 13, it just, like, it was lost on way too many people.
Yeah. Like, I don't think 13's story is really, like, bad. It's just not it's just told very badly. Yeah. When you get the story and you know all the pieces of it, it's like, yeah, that's a fine story, that could work, but they just told it very badly. They didn't know how to tell that kind of story.
Like, they just need to go back to the, like, 9 had it right. 9 had, like, a good mix of, like, them making a really unique world, but also making it very accessible so that people understand what's going on.
You didn't need to know, like, incredible amonts of gory details to understand what was going on in 9.
Yeah.
Ivalice, the reason that it works is partially because there's just so many Ivalice games that have, like, consistent things coming back in each game that it actually makes sense to have Ivalice have a fairly developed world.
Also, while Ivalice does have an overall running story, each individual game is self-contained.
Yeah, so Ivalice can be complicated and it's fine. And then you had Final Fantasy 13, which is... I don't know how you make robot gods fucked, but... like, it's way too complicated. Too much stuff going on.
I mentioned to a friend, you can basically sum up the entire story of the Lightning Saga as follows. Dad goes upstairs and tells his 3 kids to play nice. The 3 kids make their sister sit in a corner and start breaking their toys, hoping Dad will come down and see what the ruckus is about.
Pretty much.
That's the story when you distill it down to the basics. Really.
It's crazy.
How about the decals?
Like when you connect it with Pulse and Etro and Bunavelza, that's basically the story. 3 kids that just want their dad to come back and pay attention to them.
Oh, nice
That is the
customization.
stupidest fucking car I've ever seen.
So yeah, the Regalia is the only party member with as many dumb outfits as Noctis.
And that's a good note to end on.
Yep.
Yeah.
Next time on FFWiki Plays Final Fantasy 15, we talk to a dog.